Let's do this, the Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful in oil country and around the world. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal. I'm here today with Bruce McCurdy. Hey, Bruce.
Hey, David, how you doing tonight?
Well, that was a pretty weird an afternoon game, which the Oilers won in fine fashion with some spectacular plays. Against the team that they've absolutely dominated. I guess Ottawa looks like an NHL team most nights, but against the Oilers, they tend to look like an AHL team this year, at least. The Oilers, they won the game 4-2, and they had 16 grade A chances to 9 for the Senators. So, Bruce, this is our two good things, two bad things, and two numbers podcast, and because it's a juicy Oilers win, we'll go with two good things each. Why don't you start it off?
Sure. I'm going to go with the obvious choice of the game's first star, Leon Draisaitl, and his monster contribution of 3 goals, one primary assist for 4 points in the 4-2 Edmonton win. And I thought he was terrific for most of the game. He came out just flying on the very first shift of the game. He made a great end-to-end rush and pass to McDavid in the early going that said, we mean business here. And he and Coach Tippett made the decision that Ottawa just wasn't going to be able to stop his big guys together on one line. And Coach Tippett was correct that they were not going to be able to stop his 2 big stars on one line. McDavid was flying, and Draisaitl was hitting him with passes. Nice breakout pass that sent McDavid off for a nice rush in one play. Another time where they just kept finding each other. I mean, the two of them had, between them, 4 goals and 4 primary assists on the 4 goals that the team scored. 3 were Draisaitl from McDavid. 1 was McDavid from Draisaitl. And it's just astonishing. Anyway, he fired, he labeled a one-timer, just opened the scoring on a power play in the first period. This after being stopped a couple of times by a impressive, I thought, Marcus Hogberg in the Ottawa cage, who Oilers had lit up on 3 earlier occasions, but I thought the kid played hard and played well and made a number of good saves, but there was no stopping that drive from Leon. And there certainly was no stop in the second drive from Leon late in the second that put the Oilers ahead a second time, 2-1, when McDavid fed him down. He had both his feet planted below the goal line, right in the corner, and the puck came on his stick about a foot above the goal line from like almost all the way over to the boards, and just bam, right inside both posts, right from that angle. It's like the angle of the posts, I mean, they're just like this from where he was shooting, and he had not much to shoot at. He hit it with a 100-mile-an-hour fastball one-timer from almost impossible angle. We were joking that it was a grade A chance from a grade C location, but because it was a one-timer, and the goalie, frankly, had no chance. That one was so well executed.
Yeah, he had the bat control of Rod Carew there, Bruce, with that one. Put it anywhere he wants.
Mm-hmm. Then in the third, Leon was one of 5 participants in the phenomenal virtuous cycle that led to McDavid scoring the winning goal that we'll speak at more length about later in the podcast. And he made the Oilers, that whole sequence, it took them a while to break through, but the little misdirection play to get McDavid again in open ice with room to do something with it, and Connor looked after the rest. And then finally, Leon won a big face-off in his own zone with under 30 seconds to play, and then finally hit the open net with a shot from center with 1 second on the clock to complete the hat trick for the free extra point for each of the big boys, but we'll take it. So all in all, I mean, they were running around in their own zone on one long shift, and they were burned on a goal against where I didn't really see either of the big 2 at fault, but the line got scored on. But for the most part, they they dominated play and they created much more dangerous chances than the ones that they gave up. Let's put it that way.
On the opening goal, Bruce, did Ottawa ever blow it on the penalty kill? The one thing that you must not allow on when you're shorthanded against the Oilers is a cross-seam pass to Leon Draisaitl. And they left that. The Royal Road was wide open for business. It was wide open, and it wasn't even close. McDavid didn't even have to try on the pass almost. It was just zip right through and Pam in the net. And that was a disastrous shorthanded situation. My good thing, Bruce, is Mikko Koskinen. And he wasn't, through the game, he wasn't called on necessarily to, 9 grade A chances, 2 goals against. It's kind of about what you'd expect. But it was one of those situations where I was starting to get the sense was he was getting more confident and more solid as the game went on. Mm-hmm. And I don't think he was at fault on either of the goals. The first goal obviously is a bang bang play in the slot, and the second one's a screen shot from the high slot that he doesn't see initially. So
shot.
Maybe it was a great shot and it was a screenshot. Maybe he could have had that one. I don't know, but that would have been a tough save. But as the game went on, and I'm thinking, he's playing pretty well here. He looks confident. He's making all the saves. And then in the last minute of the game, he jumps ahead to top of the charts in my eyes, because there's 2 absolutely grade A chances. One of them a 5-alarm chance, I think, at the side of the net, and Koskinen saves both of them. He essentially saves the win. Mm-hmm. And that's what that's what he's paid to do. And good for you, Mikko Koskinen. He needed to do that because people are on his case. They're looking for any little thing. It's funny, when the first goal went in, I thought Koskinen had caused it. I thought it was some kind of wraparound player that went in off of him. And I was thinking, oh, geez, this is so typical. It didn't turn out to be the case. But that's how I think quick I am, at least, to start to look for mistakes with Koskinen. And he came up and had another good game. And he's had a number of them. He's not playing poorly. He's playing okay. And that's what you want from a backup goalie, I'd suggest.
Well, he's now 4-0-0 against the Senators this year, and he won the games by scores of 4-2, 3-2, 3-2, and 4-2. And he's, held them to 2 and under, and the Oilers basically scored 3 real goals in each game, and it was enough to win. And he, wasn't spectacular, you wouldn't say, but he did his job, and he didn't allow the critical goal or the tying goal in any of those games. And I would say tonight, especially when he bricked up the front of the net there in the last 30 seconds, that was enormous. Save was almost as enormous as he is.
He seems like he really does come across as the gentle giant, doesn't he? Mm-hmm. And I really am rooting for the guy. He seems like his puck moving, like you can see he's trying to pick up on the things that Smith does. He's not quite as fast. Yeah, but he's getting it a little bit, isn't he? Like he's getting noticeably better.
Like he's not Smith, but he was moving the puck positively, making good decisions.
So he's got that same old .903 save percentage, Bruce. Mm-hmm. Well, I think they factored in. Yeah, they have factored in tonight's game, and that might seem a little bit terrible, but we can always console ourselves, Bruce, that Jacob Markstrom has an .898 save percentage this year. Mm-hmm. There you go. I like to mention that now and then. I don't know why, but it just pops in my head. Not necessarily to Ken Holland's credit, because he wanted to sign him for 7 years. Anyway, maybe it's not Markstrom. Maybe it's the team over there. What is your second good thing?
I'm going to triple out the line, the 14, 15, 16 line, Devon Shore and Josh Archibald on the wings with Jujhar Khaira in the middle. And I thought they had a terrific game tonight, a hard-nosed game. All 3 men were solid on the penalty kill, and they created some chances. And they played physical hockey. Jujhar Khaira in particular, he had uh, a terrific shift in the first period when well, he rang a wicked wrist shot off the crossbar from, and there's a little space over Hogman's shoulder on the short side, and he rang a rocket off the crossbar. But just before that, he'd made a play to set up one of his line mates. Now, who was it? You've probably got the document open in front of you. Sorry, and it was the wrong game.
What period?
Here. First period, right before right before he hit the crossbar. Anyway, he was handling the puck with a plum. He was playing with his usual physicality, and 3 out of 7 in the face-off dot. But the line, they had 8 hits among them, and they dominated on the shot clock by let's just pick Jujhar Khaira. 12 shot attempts to 5, 6 shots to 2 while they were on the ice, and absolutely nothing in the way of trouble in their own end of the ice. And then on the, like say, on the penalty kill, they were looking to do damage. I mean, not just Khaira. I mean, Shore, he had 2 great chances on the penalty kill, and one really nice one where he cut into the middle, and was it PK? Maybe that was even strength, where Larson kind of barged up the middle, and Shore held the puck, and then rang a shot off the goal post. And he also landed a wicked check. That guy's bigger than I realized that he was. He's got a heavy body, and this was a heavy kind of game. And that whole line, when you got Shore throwing his weight around, and Archibald, 4 hits another night at the office for him, and Khaira, I mean, that's a lot of physicality on one line, and they are the Oilers' most physical line because their would-be physical leader is missing in action in that department. But I'm talking about Zack, Kassian up front. Their physical leaders on the back end clearly are Larson and Nurse, but up front you'd expect Kassian to be leading that charge. But tonight it was the Khaira, Archibald, Shore line. Without a doubt, I thought all 3 guys played well, and I'm going to grade them highly.
Devon Shore is kind of, I didn't like him at center in the end, like maybe for the first game he played well, but I don't think he's got the hockey IQ defensively, or the fundamental play, however you want to put it, to be the center, which is a really hard position to master at the NHL level. But he is a strong winger, and plays a power game. He's fast. He's big. He's got some offense. I think he's earning another contract at this point, Bruce. Like, it's a little premature to say that, but that's what I was thinking tonight as I'm watching the game. I'm thinking, I like this player. He's doing well consistently. He's fit in on this line. This line's got something going on. This is working. His work on the PK, I think, is getting a little bit better. His positional play on the PK. So, yeah, good for sure. You brought up Kassian and his lack of physical play, Bruce. It was driving me crazy tonight. And I did a poll, called it a hockey poll, and asking fans if they thought Kassian should be waived, and about 61% of fans said he should be waived. So this is a player who has been a massive fan favorite in the past. But if we're completely honest, I don't know anyone who would say that since he signed that new contract that he's had more than. There's been a scattering of good games, and there might be like 1 in 5 or 1 in 10, and he's in one of these slumps that he's been in the past, where he just is. People want to see him traded or waived. They'd be right now. People would be overjoyed if the Oilers were able to trade him away and not take too big of a poison pill.
Tippett talked about him positively in the post game, and I saw him positively in about the last 6 or 8 minutes of the game. I thought he had a couple of decent shifts, but I was not impressed in a game where young Brady Tkachuk was throwing his weight around left and right, giving Draisaitl a face wash into the ice in a scrum that he invented, or mashing Puljujärvi behind the goal line in the most Tkachukian of fashions, where yes, it was engaged with the defenseman. All of a sudden, the big winger comes out of nowhere and just smears him. And I was expecting and hoping for a physical response from Kassian, and not going overboard, but he had 2 hits, and neither of them were anything special, and he had his usual 0 shot attempts. Like not like David, in his last 14 games, Zack Kassian has 4 shots on goal in 14 games. 4 shots. It's like no offense at all. It's like I'm going to dangle and be a playmaker, and every once in a while he makes a pass, but drive the net once in a while, man. With that speed and size, drive the net. Don't button hook because a defenseman is over there. Put your shoulder into him and take it to the net. Use your God-given talents.
Yeah, you brought up that Tkachuk hit on. Puljujarvi.
Mm-hmm.
My bad thing was almost at that point going to be Keith Tkachuk, because someone has taught you hardly ever see that play in the NHL where someone's looking for that hit, where a forward's creeping down and he's looking for the forward who's coming around the net, and he's looking to get him in that blindside moment. The only other player I've seen do that was Matt Tkachuk on Zack Kassian. And now we see the other. Who's that? Oh, Rafi Torres. Yeah, maybe they were, but I don't remember Keith Tkachuk doing that as a player. But maybe he taught his sons to look for that hit. But that is a nasty play. It's a nasty blindside. It's legal, and so I have to admit that. And there I have I probably would also admit if it was an Oiler administering that hit to a player on another team, I would love it. So. So I'm not consistent on this, but I hate to see Oilers hit that way because it is a dangerous hit.
Well, Ottawa picked up the physicality in the middle period, and I will say Nurse went in and defended Draisaitl rather vigorously after that face wash into the ice that I didn't like much at all. But that was a time for all hands on deck, and it was like another night at the office for 44. And I mean, when the other team is getting in your star's face like that, you know what to do, right? You should know what to do. They're paying you $3.2 million to do it. So,
indeed. You picked Khaira, Bruce. I was thinking of Khaira too as I was just seeing him good all game long. So confident with the puck. It just hit me again and again that he was holding the puck, looking to make plays. And I remember when he was playing poorly just before he got waived or in about that time, I think that's what I was craving to see, that if Jujhar Khaira was going to fail, that he failed going for it. That he tried to make a play instead of just throwing the puck away, because he was just constantly throwing the puck away. And it had been happening for a year. It hadn't been a new problem, and it was just ongoing. So I just started to crave, because I remember seeing the player that we saw tonight. This is the player we actually saw in the AHL. That level of skill with the puck, making plays. And the hope is that eventually a player acclimatizes to the NHL, builds up his game, and starts to look a little bit like the player that they were at a lower level. And this is the first time really that I'm really getting that strong feeling from Khaira that he's achieved that level that he was at the AHL, which was to be his upper limit, I think, was as a third line center in the NHL, and he's there. That's what he is right now for the Edmonton Oilers. He had a strong two-way game.
Keyword strong. He's a beast. And
yes,
but he's gotten better with the puck. I just saw in my notes, so just before he rang the bar, the play that impressed me was a deft little wall pass that sprang Archibald and Shore on a 2-on-1, and Archibald made the pass across the shore, and the defenseman made a great defensive play, just tip it away just before Shore was going to have a real good whack on net. But the pass that sprang him, a little dump off the wall to send him in, gorgeous. And then there was another sequence where Khaira handled and passed off the puck 4 different times, and to four pass receivers, and it was in the center of the action and making good positive plays with the puck. So,
his points per 60 at 5-on-5, Bruce, is the third best on the team after McDavid and Draisaitl. McDavid's third in the league and Draisaitl's 16th in the league. This is before tonight's game, I should say. Khaira's 63rd in the NHL for forwards, 63rd out of 413 regular forwards in the NHL at 2.22 points per 60. How many
minutes was your cutoff? 200?
150 minutes. So, we have, Khaira 2.2.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Nugent-Hopkins versus at 1.2. Jesse Puljujarvi at 1.2. So there's some puck luck involved in all of those numbers. Puljujarvi and Nugent-Hopkins have had some bad luck on the attack, not getting more points and goals. But Jujhar's killing it. Bruce, I'll go to my second good thing, and he's also going to be my bad thing, but it's Connor McDavid. He was just flying tonight. He was in on 10 grade A scoring chances tonight, which is a pretty good night's work for any player. In fact, hardly any other player on the Oilers ever reaches that level in a game in the season, except for Draisaitl will do it now and then. Mm-hmm. But McDavid does it probably about, I don't know, every 10th game. He'll have a game like this tonight. So he starts the game with a great rush up the ice where he splits two defensemen, gets a breakaway chance, and almost scores. He finds Draisaitl for the first goal. He finds him for the second goal. He's dangerous on the power play in the first. He breaks in again, another breakaway, partial breakaway late in the first period. Then that incredible shift where they scored the go-ahead goal in the third period. Just this monstrous shift. And honestly, I was really hoping they would score. And I was thinking they're not going to score because that would just be too good. But it was too good. It became too good. And McDavid got the puck and swooped in there and whipped around everyone and put it top shelf. You know, he was flying tonight. Some nights I think, Bruce, that his skate blades are made out of dilithium crystals or something like that because he's moving so fast out there.
He was slicing through the D tonight, wasn't he?
He sure was.
And he had like 2 or 3 like jam plays in close where he just cut right through the defense that was in front of him and created something out of nothing almost a couple times. And on that goal, you could see it coming. And once he got the puck with that little bit of space, I thought, finally, here we go. And then, sure enough, one little cut and a perfect shot under the bar. Boom, game winner.
Game-winning goal. So I'll just go right to the bad thing. It happens in the last minute, and he gets the puck in the slot, and I think maybe it just slipped off his stick. You could say maybe it was just like a fumbled puck, and it could happen to anybody. But it looked to me, Bruce, like he was thinking goal, instantly, which is a normal thing to think if you're Connor McDavid, I'm sure. But what you should be thinking is hack that puck out of here, get that puck out of here, maybe and instead he turns it over right in the slot. And 2, Ottawa could have tied the game because of his mistake. So whatever was going on in his head, we don't know. All we know is that he failed to execute. Yeah. And he failed to execute. And because of that, in a very key moment, when you need players to execute defensively, he didn't get it done. And it led to 2 grade A chances against. If it was any other player, we'd be screaming bloody murder. If it was Caleb Jones right now, there'd be a let's not get into it. Yeah. But with McDavid making it, he deserves some heat for that. So that's my bad thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's good thing and bad thing. The bad thing was the play. The good thing was his play for the whole rest of the game, really. But that one fumble, he had Leon breaking, and they were going to clear the zone and probably score, but he fumbled the puck, and that's a bad place to be doing that 10 feet in front of your own net with 30 seconds left in a 1-goal lead. But he got away with it.
Bruce, where are we now? Your bad thing?
Well, you went ahead from your good thing to your bad thing.
Yeah, what's your bad thing?
I had something bad. What did I have bad out of this game?
Oh, the first goal.
Oh, the first Ottawa goal. Yeah. This was after Edmonton played a pretty terrific first period. They outshot Ottawa 17-7. They outchanced them grade A chance 8-3. They had a well-deserved 1-0 lead. Easily could have been 2-0. They had 5 great chances on that one power play at the end of the first. And then they came out in the first, how many seconds? 25 seconds of the second period, and that whole first period was wasted. And it was wasted because of just some sloppy, soft play. Sloppy being Tyson Barrie having the puck on his stick, breaking out of the zone, and missing what should be for a man of his position description an absolutely routine pass that he put ahead of Draisaitl and directly to Ottawa, and they poured back in over the Edmonton blue line. So instead of the puck going north, it was coming right back south at them. And Ottawa had it in the Edmonton zone for a little bit, and Thomas Chabot went up the boards and around Jesse Puljujarvi too easily. And Chabot's Puljujarvi's man, right? I mean, he's the right winger and the left point man's his man. And he was trying to make another play with another player in the territory, but his job was to hang with Chabot and probably just take him to the boards. And maybe the puck goes through, but the player shouldn't go through with it the way Chabot did. And so he then had free rein to go in and circle the net. And he made a quick centering pass, which Josh Norris was able to tap home because Darnell Nurse was doing a frankly soft job of covering Norris in front of the net. He did not take his stick, and it turned sort of not quite a nothing play, but wasn't that promising of a play. And all of a sudden, the guy's basically scoring from the edge of the crease because the defenseman hasn't boxed him out, hasn't taken his stick, and it was just that they came out a little bit sleepy for the start of the second. Bam, lead gone. And there was enough sort of weak plays in there that I'm going to single that out as my bad thing.
The same thing happened at the start of the third. Kind of a weak back check. I know Dominic Cahoon didn't exactly get on his horse, and they tied it up again there. Where are we now? Okay,
door, the window.
Yeah, Bruce, it's time for our numbers. Do you have your number handy? 40.
I do. I'm going to go with the number 41.
Yeah.
And that's the number of points scored by Leon Draisaitl plus Connor McDavid in 8 games against Ottawa Senators this year.
Wow.
They play 8 games, and the deadly duo has averaged over 5 points a game between them in these games, including tonight's 8-point performance. So basically all of these games, all year long, they've been pumping in the goals and points. And Leon now has 21 against Ottawa and Connor 20. And they showed a list during the game of guys against the rest of the league. Connor had 16 against Calgary. He was next on the list. And then it was Mika Zibanejad against Philadelphia that he had 2 6-point games in a row against Philadelphia. And he had 15 on the year against Philly. And even with those 2 6-point games, like he's way back of what McDavid and Draisaitl have done to the poor lowly Senators. Hapless Senators, that's the word. This is the time for the word hapless. And
maybe after tomorrow night's game is the time for that. And for me to call them an AHL team after tomorrow night's game, we're both getting ahead of ourselves.
Good point by you, yes. Yeah, I actually have lots of time for Ottawa. They're a tough team. They play hard, they don't quit. And they've given almost all the other teams in the conference plenty of grief. And Edmonton has just been able to, there's been a lot of close games. I mean, those scores I gave you earlier, there's been a few games that were right down to the deaths that they were hanging around. And they have good young talent, but they have, there's holes, obviously.
Yeah. Is Calgary and Vancouver eliminated from the playoffs yet? I guess they are statistically almost eliminated. Edmonton's got 50 points in 40 games. Vancouver has 35 points in 37 games. And Calgary has 35 points in 40 games, but it's 15 points fewer than the Oilers. The Oilers have a .625 winning points percentage, and Calgary has a .438 points percentage right now.
That's pretty impressive.
That's pretty good. Okay.
I think we're pretty close to home and cooled out. We just got, make sure you don't drop into some kind of a bad losing streak or blow too many games that you should win. When they blew that game in Montreal the other night, my thinking was, okay, you cut it off at 1, you got to go out and win the next game after that, and they did that tonight.
There are 24 wins and 16 losses in total, so they're 8 wins above real 500, which is a great accomplishment for an NHL team at this point in their season. Usually this would be about the halfway mark, obviously, after 40 games. So, Bruce, my number is 30. And that is the number of passes in the sequence, third period sequence on the Oilers' third goal, which starts off with Darnell Nurse making a great block on a shot in his own zone,
Dangerous.
And then McDavid picking it up. And they get into the zone. And how many seconds were they in the zone, Bruce?
Well, they crossed the blue line at 7:48, and the puck finally went in the net at 6:06. So 1 minute 42 seconds of zone time, and it was the Nurse, Barry, McDavid, Puljujarvi, mostly Draisaitl, although Kassian was out there originally on the line change. In fact, I think it was Kassian who made the zone entry or keyed the zone entry, and then he was involved in the first cycle, and he got off, and Leon came on, and they cycled and cycled and cycled and cycled some more.
And there was a couple players who I thought, like, they all, obviously it's Nurse and Barry, and they're out there, and they both made some nice passes, and so did McDavid. McDavid made a brilliant finish. The players, and Draisaitl was the best player on the ice during that sequence. He made a number of very incredible passes. You know, he just would spot someone way across the ice and go cross seam, and he hit them with it. He did that once or twice. His passing on that was miraculous. It's just classically on Draisaitl. But the other player who really stood out was Jesse Puljujarvi.
Yep.
Because a couple times, at least 2 or 3 times, he can be kind of nervous with the puck. Like he still lacks confidence playing with these big players, which is not surprising at all. And sometimes you can start to think, is he ever going to calm down and settle down and start putting up some points and draining shots and making better plays with the puck, or is he just going to keep, flubbing it away now and then and looking a little nervous out there? Even as he does a good job moving the puck to McDavid and forechecking, but suddenly the confidence started to come, and this is the player that we're going to see, I hope, more and more. He gets the puck, he protects the puck, he uses his body, he waits, he makes a great pass, and he does it once, twice, maybe 3 times in that sequence. Yeah, he looked every bit the equal of the other great players on the ice in that moment, and he rose to the occasion of that incredible, thrilling offensive zone. 146, did you say?
140, a minute and 42 seconds.
Minute and 42 seconds of Oiler glory.
In the Ottawa zone.
He was right in there, looking every bit at home with those great players. So I really love to see that. And
his crashing of the boards was a critical component to them keeping the puck in at least twice in there, where he didn't win it outright, but he prevented Ottawa from clearing by just getting right on the guy with the puck and creating some chaos that Ottawa couldn't make a clean clear. And then one of Edmonton's skilled players would make some play to intercept the shootout or prevent it from getting across the blue line ever. It just stayed in that zone. Yeah. And the Ottawa players, I don't know how long they were out there before the minute and 48, because it was, they'd had the puck down in Edmonton territory just before. So I'm sure they were probably all on there for more than 2 minutes, and they were whipped. So I got to watch that sequence again and specifically watch the Ottawa players and see what they're doing by the end of it, because time ticks a lot more slowly when you're not the team with the puck.
They were starting to slice them open with cross-seam passes as it went along more and more. I don't know how many cross-seam passes there were. I should have counted that in that sequence, but there was a number of them, maybe 3 or 4. And so, Bruce, there was a previous fantastic sequence which also ended in a goal, which, 10 games ago, maybe? Mm-hmm. And how many passes?
There was 25 passes that time, and it was a minute. So there was so this one was a longer possession, and I didn't count the passes. But tonight there was also a couple of shots that missed the target, but the Oilers recovered it and kept the cycle going. So
Puljujarvi had a really good shot that missed the net, almost scored, and then Nurse had one too. So there was 2 missed shots, and then there was McDavid's shot. And as I counted it, and it's a little bit debatable, but I think there's about 30 passes in there. So yeah, they bettered themselves, which is amazing because that first one was equally grand, or was also grand. This was even a little bit better than that.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty, we got
Xavi
another
de
game tomorrow.
Iniesta to Messi, eh?
Yeah, that's right. This was a messy finish, that's for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Clean finish, depending on how you want to put it, but yes.
yeah. What a nice goal to finish it all off.
Yeah, nice game winner. That was Connor's 8th game winner of the season, by the way. So,
So
and
Bruce,
Leon's got 6. So,
I want to ask you something. I did another poll where we asked fans whether they'd trade the first pick and an unwanted contract to get a winger for McDavid. And they would probably have to add, like the poll didn't, I should have said, and probably another prospect, because you'd have to add in another prospect, like, Samorukov or Ryan McLeod or someone like that, like a good, very good prospect like those two players are, you'd have to add in to make such a trade. There, I didn't add
yeah,
that in, but
guys are rent.
there seemed to be a lot of openness for trading the first pick from Oilers fans. What's your thought on it? Would you, if you could get the right player to fit in with McDavid, would you make that trade?
Well, if he was affordable and controllable some way or another, as in he either had more than just the rest of this year on his contract, or he's an RFA at the end of it, and he's the right player, you'd have to think about it. If it's a rental, first round pick is a mighty steep price to pay for a rental, unless you're also somehow including in your salary equalization that you're dumping a unwanted salary. And then all of a sudden that first round pick is, I mean, one idea I heard floated was Neil's contract, the first round pick, a prospect to Buffalo for Hall, where they're clearing out contract to make room for the incoming one. And of course, he's as a straight rental, not worth a first round pick as a general rule, but as um, as a more complex transaction, then maybe because Buffalo really wants to. I think they're going to tear it down, and they want to add first round picks and high
Yeah,
picks.
they could. You could see the like. I think the prospect would have to be anyone but Holloway, Broberry, or Bouchard, right? And
Hmm.
then you can have your pick of any of the other prospects essentially, and it would probably be Samorukov or McLeod or maybe Raphael Lebois. It's hard to know exactly what the other team would pick, but you'd have to, I think, in a deal like that, give up a pretty good player because Neil's got what 3 years left, I think, on that contract.
Two
So
more years.
just two more.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we're getting close. We're getting close there, Bruce, to something that might make sense. I mean, listen, the way I I'm not I'm in favor of it. I'm
Hmm.
of the making a deal. If, like you say, if they can work something out with the player to keep him a little bit longer, that would be even better. And I'm not sure that's Taylor Hall that they should be aiming
Yeah.
for.
No, that's the name that came up in my
Yeah.
example
So,
for
but
sure.
a player, there's Raquel from Anaheim is another name that's bandied about. And I'm not watching or scouting any of these players, so I don't really have a strong opinion. I can look at their scoring numbers and make a guess about their how they're doing offensively, but I am open to them making this trade. I think what you have here on the Oilers right now, Bruce, is you have not only a number one center, you have a number two center who are the two best players, two of the best 3 or 4 players in the league. You have the best player and then another one who's close to that. You have a number one goalie in Mike Smith, who's actually playing like a number one goalie. And you
Yep.
have a number one defenseman in Darnell Nurse. All of the main pieces of a championship team are there right now. And we don't know what their goaltending is going to be like in the future. But Mike Smith is doing this right now. And I think for me, it changes the equation. I think they could win the Stanley Cup. Do I think that they have a good chance? No, but I do think that they're one of 10 teams that have a decent shot at it. And if they get hot, they can win the cup. They're not going to get hot though if they don't get a little bit better. I'm content with the bottom line players. They're going to have to figure out a way to get it done on defense. Some of those defensemen are going to have to step up, but I do think they need another forward, a shooter, to play with Connor McDavid. And I
Couple
think if they
names.
get, go ahead,
Sorry, a couple names came off the board here tonight. New Jersey and Islanders made a big trade,
Palmieri.
and Palmieri and Travis Zajac. went
Wow.
from New Jersey to Long Island, and first round pick went the other way, and a conditional pick, and I think a prospect. But Palmieri and I mean Zajac kind of you talk about your right shot veteran center. So I mean that they solved two different problems that the Oilers are trying to solve with that acquisition. Big difference being that Islanders put Anders Lee on long-term injured reserve a while back, done for the season, and he was making I think $7 million. So they had lots of cap space. So they just had to find a price tag to bring in these players, and I think they're both UFA at the end of the year, but I don't know that for I haven't dug into the trade in detail. But Islanders are clearly thinking of making a run at it this year, and so they should.
Well, are they? But do they have a better chance than the Oilers to win in the Cup? So
They went to
maybe
the conference finals last year, and
Zajac. Let's see. Zacac's actually had really good scoring this year, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Bruce. He actually, it's amazing. He must be on a hot run, but he's 40th for even strength scoring, 5-on-5 scoring in the NHL this year for forwards. 40th, 2.44 points per game. And Palmieri is, well, he's not doing so well. He's at 1.2. He's in the Nugent Hopkins territory.
He's got 17 points. Zajac's got 18, but Palmieri's been a consistent scorer for a number of years, and I think they're assuming he'll come around. But
let's come on the power play. So so there's a first round pick. It's going to be in the 20s this year. It's supposed to be not a great draft. Like it's an iffy draft. I know the Oilers don't have other picks, but that kind of draft pick probably has like a 1 in 3 chance of being a good NHL player, 1 in 4 chance maybe being a good NHL player. And this is Connor McDavid is in his prime. Leon Draisaitl's in his prime. As I say, all these other pieces are there to make a run. You're who knows? You might be renting. For all we know, they're renting Nugent Hopkins and Barrie right now. This is I'm not. There's a big narrative right now. Well, Ken Holland and the people in the media like, well, his hands are tied. He can't do anything. And it's good to if you're Holland, it's good to undersell, right? You don't want to oversell what you're going to do. Undersell it and maybe over deliver. And then there's last year where we Oilers traded 2 second-round draft picks for Athanasiou, and it blew up on them. So that's hanging over Holland's head. And often these trades don't work. I know that. But I like this team enough to and I just think they need this other element. That's the other thing. Unless, partly because the coach won't go to the dynamite line to see if they have a different element within, which is a whole different story, which I bring up every podcast. But I'd like to see them make a trade, and I'm open to them doing that on the right deal. So see what he can do. I doubt it's going to happen, but I'm hoping it does.
Well, that deal tonight will unlock the doors for, probably other moves, right? Now the Islanders, for instance, are out of the market for Taylor Hall. They've done their thing to bring in a scoring winger, and they've used their cap space. So there's one less suitor, but there's also one less available player. The Oilers aren't going to get Kyle Palmieri off the Islanders the way they might have got him off the Devils. They
got 2 players for 1 first pick.
First pick and some prospect, which I don't even remember the guy's name. But he might be a good prospect, and a conditional 3rd or 4th round pick. So,
yeah, well, we'll see. I mean, if the Oilers are moving out, they have to move out a bad contract. The Leafs had to pay the price of a first pick to move out Marlowe's contract for 1 year. So 2 years of Neil, that wouldn't be cheap to move out. I wonder if there's a team that might be more open to Zack Kassian. And not seeing him necessarily as great value, but a missing component of toughness on the team on their team that might make them more open than they might be for James Neal. So, and the other option is Koskinen, right? If they could trade, Koskinen is another option. They have Stalock as the backup, and Koskinen has a limited no move or no trade or no movement clause. So he's got a list of teams. So that's another possibility. But we'll see.
Islanders acquire forwards Kyle Palmieri and Travis Zack from Devils in exchange for forwards AJ Greer and Mason Jobst. Jobst, a first-round pick in the 2021 draft and a fourth-round pick in the 2022 draft. So a basket of picks and prospects, let's say.
Mason Jobst is 27 years old.
Okay, not a prospect.
He's not a prospect. I don't know. That's some kind. And who's
That's
the other guy?
Roster balance. AJ Greer.
Yeah, that's just opening up a roster spot there, Bruce. That's exactly what that is. And AJ, I don't have Greer.
Greer.
Greer. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There we go. Like the football player Terry Greer. Remember him?
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't he the great wide receiver for the Toronto Argonauts?
I remember Roosevelt Greer, Rosie Greer, Mike
Greer's
uncle.
Like Rosie Greer, is he in Brian's song? Brian, is he in the movie Brian's Song? A character?
Very possibly.
AJ Greer is another career minor leaguer. So it's just the first pick for two pretty good players.
Just making room on the 50-man list.
Yeah, so that's a pretty good value. They're both rentals. So, but those are pretty good rentals for like to get two of those guys isn't bad, not bad at all. Of course, Palmieri is in the slump this year, as I mentioned. So maybe that won't work out. Maybe it will. All right, Bruce. So we got a game tomorrow night too.
We do tomorrow night, as opposed to tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow evening, shall we say, 5:00 Mountain Time, sort of more normal starting time.
Okay, great.
Against the Sens, and then Saturday night in Calgary, bonus kind of game. So.
All righty, and then we'll find out what's happening the coming week. The two games against Vancouver, are they officially canceled? I believe they are, or they're not. They are.
I don't think they are, but I also don't think there's any chance they go ahead. I think they're just waiting to get more news before they take any more.
It was weird. Their chief medical officer said yesterday that the cases weren't variant cases, as I understand it. And now the Canucks are saying that they are. I think
21 players and 4 coaches.
Wowzer!
Pretty close to the whole team.
So what we're going to do, there's the trade deadline on Monday. So if the Oilers aren't playing next week, I suspect that they'll have some game moved there. But there's a lot of Bakersfield games, Bruce, so I'm intending to watch those, and I'll be reporting on those and maybe doing a podcast on them as well.
What's going on there now with a lot of players that have turned up there? Kesselring came there from Europe. Kemp and Lavoie came there. They've got Ostap Safin playing games for them now, and they've got Ryan McLeod, who's a player of extreme interest at this point. 22 games, 11 goals, 11 assists, 22 points, plus 17. And most of it at even strength or shorthanded, because he's, I don't think he's a big part of the power play. So he's a player to watch.
I think he plays the power play.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, I think he's out there. He's the net front guy, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. Well, he's not getting points on the power play then. That's how I heard it.
Okay. 22 points in 22 games. Not bad for Ryan McLeod. If he comes to the NHL this year, I definitely see him as a winger from what I've seen of the player. So, but there's a spot in the top 6. I mean, if he can, it's to get more points than Nugent Hopkins and Puljujarvi or Cahoon and Yamamoto are getting in the top 6 is not it's not an impossibility, to put it mildly. Yamamoto's at the top, and he's like, his points per 60 is about half of what it was last year, the rate, and Cahoon's lower than Cahoon's right around where Puljujarvi and RNH are. They're just not getting it done, those guys right now, in terms of cashing in on scoring chances or getting enough scoring chances.
Cahoon's second or third on the team in goals per 60 at even strength, but not in points.
Yeah, I don't mind him. I just I think he's an okay player, but he's not. He just hasn't had that. There hasn't been enough scoring plays so far this year to justify him maybe getting another contract. And I think that's why I'm pushing for a trade. All right, Bruce, let's leave it there for tonight.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks for listening, everybody.
And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast. And I want to, again, thank you, Bruce, for tonight's conversation.
Indeed. Always enjoy talking about wins, especially.